I've seen videos like, that dog didn't bark. He didn't alert. He didn't. You're making it up.
Sure.
We don't train dogs. You tell me if I'm correct in this. We don't train dogs to bark when they find stuff necessarily.
Right.
We train them to either sit.
So you're talking about like a traffic stop.
Yes.
They've asked him to get out of the car for whatever legal reasons, and that's been met. Now the dog shows up, or he may be a canine handler already, and he's conducting what's called a free air sniff around the vehicle. The dog goes around the vehicle, and he does something that they didn't catch, and the canine handler comes back, and he's like, just to let you know, the dog's indicated on your car. I'm going to, per the Fourth Amendment, now I have a reason to enter your vehicle without a warrant. So now I'm going to enter your vehicle. And yes, and I've seen that over the years. People are very upset. They get upset and they don't want to play anymore, and they just want to go home. But, you know, my dog, it may just have been my badass instructor that I have. You knew when she indicated, and we trained every Wednesday. A lot of the times we'd train with the larger agency here in this area, and all their dogs. And then we'd come over to another large, and we'd all train together. Even though we didn't have the same licenses, we're all doing the same thing. It's a lot funner and better for somebody else putting out your hides, and you can log everything down, and everything's legit. And that's the best way to do it. But what my dog would do, now you have what's called an aggressive indication for narcotics, and you have a passive indication. My dog was passive, but she was visually passive. Anybody would say that's a change in behavior, and that's what you need. So Mary Jane would go around a car in a free air sniff, and I could you go into a free air sniff, and then you turn her back around. It's called a detail, and that's where they're fall on the finger. Then you turn back around for an extreme detail. And on the extreme detail, if I was on pass 3, if dog's not coming in anything, y'all have a great day. You're free to go. Once this officer writes you a warning, citation, whatever he's going to do with you, arrest you for no license plate light, whatever. My job's done. But if it indicates, they see. So if my dog would indicate, Mary Jane would sit down, then she would look back at the source. She would look at me to make sure, and then she would look back at the source, then she would touch it with her nose.
Yeah. It's like, motherfucker's here.
Yeah, she's like, here, it's here. And me personally, I was trained, you don't ever award or reward on scene. We reward on training days. We reward on the off time. But when you're out in the field, just what's called PSP certification, okay? And it's globally, not just Texas. You rewarded in training, not on the scene.
Because you don't want to correlate the finding something with the treat.
Yes.
Because otherwise now she'll get false positives. Right. And because she just wants to treat.
Yes.
Because dogs are smart.
Unfortunately, that's an issue. And it's not necessarily the canine handler. It's the way they were trained.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad teams out there, just like there's a very, very small percentage of bad cops out there.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, it's not necessarily their fault, but they need to start identifying that, retraining the dog and fixing it, because that dog is superseding a search warrant. Dude, if you're friggin', I mean, the Fourth Amendment's one of the best amendments out there. I think you would agree with that. And if I'm not a believer in violating that. I mean, it protects me, it protects my family.
Yeah.
You know, Uncle Sam's not going to come in unless they're, probable cause, they're writing a warrant, yada, yada, yada. So I'm a big believer in protecting people's friggin' amendments out there. And I think 99.9% of police officers are.
Yeah. We get caught up. We've been doing the job. You know, the worst offenders, I think, are the 5 to 7 year guys. They've got it under their wing. You know, they know the job now, and they start to get either cynical or complacent, and or there's rushing calls and stuff like that. And then that's when the Fourth Amendment stuff starts to get slipped on. And I think it's always good to sit down, you know, whether it's a roll call or whatever it is, and remind your guys, hey, we hold the ultimate power. We can take somebody's freedom away at the drop of a hat.
That's right.
And you can't forget that. Yep. It's an awesome power to have, but you need to be aware of it all the time. You need to be reminded that you have that all the time, not to stroke your ego, but to keep you in check.
Exactly.
And I'm big into that, and it's one of the reasons I do this is because as much as I wanted to help citizens get educated in what we do, which is kind of why I'm asking these questions. But the stuff I'm asking you, I don't know the answers to on a lot of it. So for me, I'm getting educated too. So I've found through this podcast, I've educated a lot of cops and shit. I had a SWAT guy on, and I had guys like, man, I was thinking about putting in for SWAT, but after listening to that, no, fuck that. And I'm like, okay, like,
you're marrying that division when you go to it, and that's okay if you're the guy for the job, as long as you don't have a family anyway.